Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the fascinating and honestly sometimes brutal psychological truths behind why highly intelligent people so often struggle to make friends. If you've ever felt like your brain is just operating on a completely different frequency than everyone else around you, well, you're absolutely going to want to pay close attention to what we have lined up. Okay, let's dive right into this. There is this massive myth out there. Most people just assume that having a high IQ is like a social cheat code, right? Like it automatically makes you super charismatic, wildly popular, and surrounded by this huge group of friends. But as psychology reveals, the reality is much, much lonelier. High intelligence doesn't just bump up your problem-solving skills, it fundamentally alters how you actually experience reality. And that profound shift, it often creates this vast, quiet distance between you and the rest of the world. I want you to consider this really profound concept. Your mind simply values truth more than belonging. So if you're finding yourself feeling isolated, the hard truth is that you aren't necessarily antisocial. Not at all. You're probably just way too self-aware, a bit too detached, and frankly, far too precise for a social world that basically runs on emotional noise and surface-level chatter. You're just wired to seek out what's real, even if that means standing alone. Section 1. The friction of the mundane, craving depth over small talk. So, highly intelligent individuals usually possess incredibly advanced social perception. You literally spot fake behavior the exact second it happens. It's like you have a radar for it. You see right through the forced laughter, the attention-seeking drama, and all that surface-level validation people constantly look for. And once you see the performance behind someone's behavior, it is virtually impossible to just play along. Because you flat out refuse to fake interest or dish out unearned flattery, people frequently mistake your honesty for arrogance, or they just think you're being cold. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why small talk is such a huge hurdle. While most folks use small talk to casually bond, your brain is actually craving a real challenge. In psychology, this is defined as a high need for cognition. It's a literal psychological craving for mental variety and deep dive conversations about philosophy, systems, or complex abstract ideas. When you're cornered into repetitive chats about the weather or, local office gossip, it isn't just slightly boring to a high IQ mind, it literally feels painfully dull. So when your environment completely lacks that deep mental stimulation we were just talking about, your natural reaction is to just zone out or withdraw. And I want to validate this for you right now. Zoning out is not you being cold. It is simply a brain that is starving for mental variety. But unfortunately, the people around you, they don't feel what's happening inside your head. They only see you pulling away, and they almost always perceive that withdrawal as you just being stuck up. Section 2. The internal overdrive, the curse of overanalysis. Let's walk through the cycle of analysis paralysis. For a lot of highly intelligent people, when a social interaction happens, the mind doesn't just shut off and move on to the next thing. Instead, you enter this heavy, trapped observation mode. You endlessly replay the conversation. You dissect every single word that was said, intensely monitoring exactly how you were perceived. And this hyper-self-awareness, it's absolute social poison. It creates this massive internal tension that other people can literally sense. You're not trying to be distant, you're just trapped in your own mental observation mode, analyzing the whole interaction instead of organically bonding with a person sitting right in front of you. Now, this ties directly into your brain's advanced pattern recognition. Your brain is a natural pattern hunter. As a cognitive strength, this is absolutely amazing. You instantly pick up on subtle behavioral shifts, inconsistencies, and hidden motives that literally everyone else completely misses. But wow, does this lead to immense social exhaustion. When you can clearly see the hidden move behind a casual compliment, or you spot the subtle dishonesty in someone's story, it makes it incredibly difficult to just relax and trust people. It's a major double-edged sword. All of this builds into what psychologists call the mental out-of-sync effect. Because your processing speed is just so incredibly high, the external world often feels like it's moving in slow motion. The interactions happening around you seem like these repetitive routines that are way too easy to anticipate. The result? You feel entirely mentally out of sync with your environment. While the rest of the world is happily blind to the complexities around them, you are left holding this profound sense of lonely awareness, knowing you're seeing layers of reality that others simply are not. Section 3. The Island of Self, Independence and the Conformity Trap. Human connection, at its very core, thrives on vulnerability and mutual dependence. We bond by needing each other, right? But highly intelligent people very often develop what's called emotional self-reliance. This is a defense mechanism where you learn to regulate all your emotions and solve all your problems entirely internally. You do the whole thing without ever showing emotional need or asking for help from the outside world. So, the crucial point is this harsh realization. You don't push people away directly, you just give them no space to matter. Because you never show that you actually need anyone, the people in your life subconsciously feel, well, completely useless around you. You aren't actively trying to banish them from your life, but by being entirely self-sufficient, you're actively starving the very connections that require mutual dependence to actually survive. Furthermore, think about it. Friendship is very often built on sameness. It's about sharing the same trends, laughing at the exact same jokes, and following the same unspoken social rules. But highly intelligent people, you guys have notoriously low social conformity. You think independently, you speak bluntly, you question traditions that everyone else just blindly accepts without a second thought. And while this absolutely earns you quiet respect from your peers, it firmly keeps you labeled as an outsider. When everyone else eagerly follows the herd, you quietly step back. That distance keeps your mind honest for sure, but it ultimately keeps you alone. Section 4. Rewiring for balance. Understanding your rare gift. If you've been nodding along to the struggles we've covered today, please remember this. Your mind is not a curse. It is a really rare gift. And like all rare gifts, it requires immense balance and some very firm boundaries. You aren't broken just because you find it incredibly hard to fit into traditional social molds. You are simply wired to prioritize cognitive depth and truth over social convenience. Validating your own lived experience is absolutely the first step to lifting that heavy emotional weight off your shoulders. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative final question. Which of these traits has actually cost you the most friendships? Was it your low tolerance for inauthenticity, that endless analysis paralysis, or perhaps your emotional self-reliance? Drop your number in the comments below. Let's see how many of us are walking this exact same quiet path. And hey, if you are ready to truly understand the raw psychology of your own mind, make sure to subscribe. We're going to keep exploring these brutal, fascinating psychological truths together. Until next time, keep thinking deep.